Imagine reading every single self-help book, like every religious scripture, every philosophy text ever written.
Right, just a massive library in your head.
Exactly. But you still wake up completely, crippled by anxiety.
Oh, wow. Yeah. That's a heavy thought.
It is, because
Yeah.
you have all the data, all the quotes memorized, but your mind is still just an absolute war zone.
Right.
And that specific, really agonizing trap is exactly what a 16th century spiritual text is warning us about today. So welcome to the deep dive.
Glad to be here.
Today we are looking at the writings of Guru Amar Das Ji, specifically verses found on page 647 of the Guru Granth Sahib, composed in Rag Sorath.
Yes.
And our mission today is to decode this text, to really understand the massive and honestly often painful gap between merely acquiring knowledge and actually undergoing a real transformation.
It's a huge gap.
Yeah, we're basically charting a course from deep inner turmoil to a state of just absolute unshakable contentment.
And it's a text that serves as a very unforgiving mirror.
Oh, totally.
But to fully appreciate what we're looking at, it helps to understand the framework first.
Yeah.
These verses are set to Rag Sorath.
Right. And for those who don't know, what does that imply?
So in the Indian classical tradition, a rag isn't just a melody. It's not just a tune.
Right.
It's a really precise musical framework designed to evoke a very specific psychological state.
Oh, fascinating.
Yeah, and Rag Sorath is traditionally associated with this feeling of a deep, almost desperate search for truth.
Wow.
It's a mood of detachment from the world, but combined with a profound yearning. So before we even look at the words, the actual sonic architecture of the text is preparing you, the listener, to strip away those superficial attachments.
Okay, let's unpack this, because the text gives us a foundational rule right out of the gate, to set up how we should even interact with it.
Yeah, it really does.
It starts with this quote, and I'll just read it here. Great men speak the teachings by relating them to individual situations, but the whole world shares in them. So it's kind of establishing this dynamic of overhearing the perfect piece of advice, but it was meant for someone else.
What's fascinating here is the psychological mechanism the text uses to bypass our natural defenses.
What do you mean by that?
Well, throughout these verses, Guru Amar Das Ji is repeatedly and directly addressing a pandit.
Okay, a pandit.
Right. And in the historical context of 16th century India, a pandit wasn't just, a casual reader.
Right, they were serious scholars.
Exactly. This is a religious scholar, cleric, basically a gatekeeper of the scriptures. They held the total monopoly on spiritual knowledge.
Oh, I see.
So by aiming the critique specifically at this elite scholar, the text disarms the average listener.
Because you're thinking, oh, he's yelling at the cleric, not me.
Exactly. You drop your guard. But the opening line is the ultimate disclaimer. It tells you that the pandit is really just a proxy.
A proxy for who?
For anyone, including you or me, who relies on intellectualizing their existence instead of actually living it.
Okay, but I'm going to play devil's advocate right away here.
Go for it.
Because we are currently doing a deep dive into source material, right?
That's...
Our audience loves learning, gathering facts, understanding really complex systems.
Sure.
So isn't acquiring knowledge inherently a positive pursuit? Like, why is the scholar being criticized so harshly just for reading scriptures?
That's a fair question.
Because the text paints this tragic picture, claiming the pandit has grown weary of reading scriptures, finding absolutely no contentment, and instead they pass their life, quote, burning night and day.
Yeah, the imagery is intense, but the critique here is not against the knowledge itself.
Okay.
It's an exposure of the illusion of duality.
Duality.
Yes, duality is the fatal flaw of the pandit. It's the psychological separation between the observer and the observed.
Okay, walk me through that.
When the pandit reads, the ego creates this massive boundary. It says, here is me, the superior intellect, and there over there is the knowledge I possess.
Ah, so it's a transaction.
Exactly. The knowledge never actually permeates their being. It just becomes another possession to hoard.
Yeah.
Another badge of superiority to wave around.
So it feels like someone memorizing a massive, 1,000-page cookbook.
Oh, that's a great way to put it.
Right. Like, they read it until they are completely exhausted. They know every single ingredient, every temperature, every technique.
They're a culinary genius on paper.
Exactly. But they never actually go into the kitchen to cook the meal or eat the food.
Right.
So they are literally starving to death while clutching the instructions for a feast. And that cognitive dissonance, knowing the recipe for peace but starving for it, is what creates all that friction.
That cognitive dissonance is exactly what the text describes as burning night and day.
Wow.
It's the friction of hypocrisy. I mean, if you hold a mental image of yourself as this realized holy person just because you've read all the books,
Right.
but your actual lived experience is constant insecurity, constant doubt, that gap generates immense psychological heat.
Hence the burning.
Exactly. The text actually says the pandit's inner doubts never depart, and they are, quote, blind inwardly and outwardly.
Blind inwardly and outwardly, that's rough.
It is. Because this blindness is basically a mechanical failure. If you are entirely focused on accumulating external validation through your intellect, you totally lose the ability to see your own internal decay.
And the text explicitly calls out this lack of internal grounding.
Yes, it does.
It asks, those who have no faith in their own minds, how can they speak of spiritual wisdom? Which basically implies that trying to teach others when your own mind is a chaotic mess is just entirely futile.
Because the words lack the vibration of truth.
Right.
I mean, you could explain the chemical composition of water to someone who is dying of thirst, but it won't save them.
No, they need a drink.
Exactly. The pandit is offering chemical formulas instead of actual water.
Oh.
The ego demands that the pandit keep reading and keep debating just to prove their worth, which is exactly why the reading itself becomes a source of weariness rather than liberation.
Okay, so if the path of the pandit leads only to this friction, this continuous burning and blindness, we obviously need to look at the alternative.
We do.
And the text pivots pretty sharply here to introduce the concept of the Gurmukh.
Yes.
We are told the Gurmukh focuses their consciousness entirely on the Lord, specifically on the name, and realizes their own self through the fear of God.
Right. There's a lot of terminology there.
Yeah, I need some mechanical definitions here. What exactly is the name, and why does fear of God lead to self-realization?
Okay, so to understand the Gurmukh, we have to contrast them with the pandit. Gurmukh literally translates to one whose faith is turned toward the guru, meaning someone oriented toward true enlightenment rather than their own ego.
Ah, okay.
The pandit faces their own reflection. The Gurmukh faces the light.
That's a powerful image.
And as for Nam, it's often translated simply as name. But mechanically in this tradition, it refers to the underlying, sustaining vibration of reality.
The vibration of reality.
Yes. It's the divine essence that connects all things, totally stripped of human labels. So focusing on the name is the act of dropping those intellectual definitions and just sinking into the actual experience of that interconnected reality.
And the fear of God aspect, because, to a modern ear, that sounds incredibly oppressive.
I know, it really does.
It sounds like living under the thumb of a cosmic dictator, which honestly doesn't sound like a recipe for contentment.
Right, but that's a translation limitation.
Yeah.
The fear being described here is not a cowering, terrified anxiety.
Okay, what is it then?
It is profound, overwhelming awe.
Awe.
Yeah. Imagine standing at the edge of the Grand Canyon for the first time or looking at a super high-resolution image of a distant galaxy.
Well, yeah, you feel tiny.
Exactly. In that split second, your personal anxieties like your mortgage, an argument with a coworker, your intellectual pride, they just instantly vanish.
Because you're so distracted by the scale of it.
Yes, your ego is completely dwarfed by the sheer scale of what you're witnessing. That awe is the fear of God.
Wow, okay, that makes so much more sense.
It destroys the ego's illusion of being the center of the universe.
Yeah.
And only when that false center is shattered can you realize your true self, which is merely a small, connected part of the whole.
Here's where it gets really interesting. The text describes the ultimate state of the Gurmukh using a phrase that is honestly incredibly jarring.
Oh, I know the one you mean.
It states that by Guru's grace, the Gurmukh remains dead while yet alive.
Yes.
And that this specific state is what allows the mind to become content in itself. I am struggling with this paradox, though. How on earth does being dead equate to finding lasting peace?
If we connect this to the bigger picture, we're looking at the core mechanism of spiritual liberation. Being dead while yet alive is the absolute cessation of the ego's demand to control reality.
Okay, break that down for me.
Let's step away from abstract spirituality for a second. Think about driving a manual transmission car.
Okay, stick shift. I'm with you.
The engine is your life force. It's powerful, it's running, it's full of energy.
Yep.
The wheels are your actions in the physical world. The ego, in this analogy, is the rigid, unyielding connection between the two that forces the car to just lurch toward every single desire. Or violently brake at every single fear.
Oh man, it's a completely reactive way of driving. Like you're constantly being thrown around by the terrain.
Precisely. You're at the mercy of every bump in the road. Becoming dead while yet alive is the act of depressing the clutch.
Depressing the clutch.
Yes, you disconnect the engine from that rigid reactive drivetrain. The engine is still running. You're still alive. You still go to work. You still interact with your family.
Right, you haven't disappeared.
Exactly. But you're no longer violently jolted by every pothole of criticism or every speed bump of desire.
Wow.
The ego's mechanism for causing internal chaos has been neutralized. The mind stops seeking outward friction to validate its existence, and therefore it becomes naturally, organically content in itself.
I understand the mechanics of that inner peace now. Depressing the clutch stops the burning.
Right.
But this raises a major red flag for me. If I am just sitting there, completely content in myself, with the clutch depressed while the rest of the world is literally burning around me, isn't that just a highly sophisticated form of selfishness?
I see what you mean.
Like, am I just checking out of the human struggle? We have to look at how this internal state interacts with external reality.
That is the exact trap of modern, commercialized mindfulness.
Really?
Yes. This idea that peace is just a private luxury, like a spa day for your brain.
Right, exactly.
But this text forcefully rejects that notion. It outlines a very real spiritual economy with incredibly high stakes for both the pandit and the Gurmukh.
Okay, lay it out for me.
For the pandit, the text warns that without the name, they will, quote, rise up and depart with blackened faces.
Blackened faces. That sounds like a metaphor for public disgrace or absolute failure.
It is the ultimate realization of a wasted life. It's the tragic end of realizing you spent your entire existence building this massive fortress of intellect and pride, only to find out it was made of sand.
Oh, that's brutal.
It is. The blackened face is the shame of having held the cookbook your whole life without ever feeding yourself or anyone else.
Wow.
But the text provides a stunning contrast when it describes the outward impact of the Gurmukh.
Yes, and this line is what really made me pause. The text states, "The whole world is fed for the sake of those who are attuned to the Lord's name."
That's a beautiful line.
But it's literally claiming that the entire world is nourished by the spiritual earnings of these individuals. I need you to explain how that actually works. We aren't talking about agricultural miracles here, right?
No.
So how does my depressed internal clutch feed the person sitting next to me?
This raises an important question about human neurobiology and really spiritual physics.
Okay.
We know that humans are biologically wired to co-regulate.
Co-regulate, right?
Yes. If you walk into a room where two people are furiously arguing, where they are burning with ego and duality, what happens? Your own heart rate spikes.
Oh, absolutely. The tension is palpable.
Your own anxiety flares. They are actively draining the emotional resources of that room. The pandit starves the environment by demanding constant validation and stirring up that friction.
So anxiety is contagious, but peace is also contagious.
Exactly. But it is more profound than just a calm demeanor. The text says these individuals have praised the Guru's Shabad.
The Shabbat.
The Shabad is the divine word, the ultimate truth. When a person aligns themselves with this truth, when they undergo that ego death of being dead while yet alive, they become an anchor point for reality.
An anchor point.
Yes. They aren't reactive. They don't pour gasoline on the fires of gossip or panic or hatred. Their presence alone absorbs the chaos of the room without reflecting it back.
That's incredible.
In a world starved for stability, that kind of grounded, unshakable contentment is spiritual sustenance. The whole world benefits from their existence because they are a source of clear water in a desert of chemical formulas.
So what does this all mean for us? We have diagnosed the disease, the hollow, exhausting intellectualism of the pandit, and we have defined the cure, the ego death and profound contentment of the Gurmukh that ripples out to feed the world.
Yes.
But diagnosing a disease isn't the same as curing it. How do we actually shift gears? Because the source material makes a very deliberate structural change here to address the how.
It does,
Yeah.
and it is a brilliant piece of literary engineering.
Tell me about it.
Up to this point, Guru Amar Das Ji has been using shaloks.
Okay.
A shalok is a short, impactful couplet. Psychologically, a shalok acts as a mirror. It is designed to expose your flaws, to show you the burning pandit inside yourself.
So it's the diagnosis part.
Exactly. But a spiritual text cannot just leave you bleeding on the floor, right? It has to stitch you up.
Yeah.
So the text structurally shifts from shaloks into a paray.
And a pare literally translates to a step or a rung on a ladder, right?
Yes. It is an actionable upward movement. The pari changes the tone entirely. It begins with an earnest plea to the beloved to lead the seeker to a true friend.
Your true friend.
Right. It emphasizes sharing virtues with this friend, meditating on the Lord's name together, and being willing to become a sacrifice to the guru who imparts this understanding.
I want to challenge this requirement of the true friend.
Oh.
Because we have this deeply ingrained cultural trope of the lone wolf spiritual seeker.
Oh, sure. The guy on the mountain.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The person who deletes their social media, hikes to a remote mountain cabin, and meditates in total isolation to find enlightenment. Why is this text insisting that I need a companion? Why can't I just climb the parae by myself?
Because if you isolate yourself, you are alone in a room with the ultimate trickster.
Which is?
Your own ego.
Ah.
The lone wolf seeker is often just the pandit in disguise, convincing themselves of their own superior enlightenment simply because there is no one around to challenge them.
Oh, that makes so much sense.
You need the true friend to act as a calibration tool. The text specifically highlights the act of sharing his virtues with him. This isn't just nice, it is a mechanical necessity.
Meaning you have to externalize the process?
Precisely. You have to bring your spiritual insights out of the theoretical realm of the cookbook and test them in the real world of human relationships.
Because relationships are messy.
Very. A true friend will reflect your actual progress back to you. They will point out when your ego is creeping back in. Furthermore, the concept of sacrifice mentioned in the parae is critical here.
Yeah, that word sounded a bit intense.
It doesn't mean physical harm. It means sacrificing your pride at the feet of someone who has actually walked the path. You have to admit you don't know the way, which is the one thing the pandit is utterly incapable of doing.
The pandit would rather burn to death than ask for directions.
Exactly. Finding the true friend is the ultimate act of humility. It's the admission that the intellect alone is insufficient, and that true wisdom requires vulnerability, community, and a willingness to be guided.
Wow.
That is the step on the ladder that moves you out of the fire and into contentment.
What a phenomenal blueprint this text has laid out. To sort of synthesize the journey we have been on today, we started by exposing the tragedy of the pandit, the gatekeeper of knowledge who memorizes the recipe but starves to death, burning with the friction of their own hypocrisy.
Right.
We then discovered the mechanical shift required to become the Gurmukh depressing the clutch of the ego, becoming dead while yet alive, and really allowing the mind to detach from the frantic demands of the external world.
Beautifully said.
And we learned that this internal peace is not a private luxury, but a public service that spiritually feeds a starving world. And finally, we saw that the only way up the ladder is to abandon the pride of the lone wolf and seek out that true friend who can help us ground our theories into lived reality.
It is a radical transformation from isolation to unity and really from burning to nourishing.
Definitely.
Which brings me to a final implication of everything we've discussed. We just spent this entire deep dive analyzing a 16th century text about the profound dangers of overanalyzing texts.
Right, the irony is not lost on us.
We talked about the trap of collecting data without undergoing transformation. So as you close out of this audio, ask yourself, are you going to treat this very deep dive as just another recipe added to your massive, heavy cookbook?
Oh, I love that.
Are you going to feel intellectually satisfied, maybe a bit superior, for having listened to something complex today, only to go right back to burning with anxiety tomorrow? Or are you actually going to depress the clutch, drop the pride, and step into the kitchen to cook?
The instructions are in your hands. Now it's time to eat. Thank you for joining us for this deep dive. Keep questioning the ego, keep seeking those true friends, and we will catch you on the next one.